Joy is not something we stumble upon by chance. It is an energy we can nurture, a thread we can weave into the very rhythm of our days. When we speak of daily practice, whether meditation, mindful movement, breath work, or quiet reflection, we often imagine discipline, rigor, or an austere commitment. Yet the deepest, most lasting transformation rarely grows from force. It flourishes when the heart meets the moment with warmth. Joy is the key that turns effort into devotion, routine into ritual, and the ordinary body into a living sanctuary of awareness. Each morning, before the weight of obligation settles on our shoulders, the body quietly waits for us to listen. Beneath the noise of thought, there is a pulse, a softness, an invitation. By welcoming joy, we invite a sense of lightness into our practice. Instead of demanding perfection, we begin by noticing gratitude, the breath that is already flowing, the heartbeat that has never abandoned us, the sensation of being alive right now. In this gentle noticing, our meditation stops feeling like a task. It becomes a homecoming. Joy has an alchemical quality. When we bring it into the body, tension loosens. Shoulders drop. The breath deepens. The mind, accustomed to chasing after the next thing, pauses. Imagine sitting quietly, feeling the air pass through your nostrils, the chest rising and falling, the simple miracle of existence. In that stillness, joy does not shout, it hums. It is subtle, a warmth in the belly, a smile that emerges uninvited. From this place, transformation unfolds naturally. The body remembers its capacity for healing, the mind softens its grip on old stories. To cultivate this joy, we need not fabricate happiness. It is less about adding something new and more about uncovering what is already present. Begin by anchoring in sensation, the texture of your palms, the steady rhythm of breathing, the contact of feet with the ground. Let each sensation be a friend. As you settle, allow a quiet appreciation to rise, a thankfulness for simply being. This is not forced positivity, it is the recognition that life, in this moment, is enough. From this seed, joy begins to expand, filling the practice with vibrancy. Daily meditation with joy reshapes our relationship to effort. Instead of pushing, we allow. Instead of straining, we listen. Over days and weeks, the body begins to trust that this time of stillness is not another demand but a refuge. With trust, the nervous system unwinds, the heart opens, and subtle awareness sharpens. This is how transformation emerges, not in dramatic flashes, but in the quiet consistency of meeting ourselves with care. The ripples reach beyond the cushion or mat. When we carry joy from our practice into the rest of the day, our interactions shift. Patience grows. Presence deepens. Small moments, a sip of tea, a shared glance, a breeze across the skin, become portals of aliveness. This shift is not escapism, it is embodiment. It reminds us that life is happening now, and we are capable of meeting it fully, even amidst uncertainty. Joy does not deny struggle. It does not erase pain. Instead, it softens our grip on suffering by offering another perspective, that within every breath, there is also beauty. This knowing fortifies us. It teaches that the body, when held with kindness, can become an instrument of peace. Transformation is no longer an aspiration far away. It is a living process unfolding each time we sit, breathe, and return. So let today mark the moment we reclaim joy as our compass. Let it guide the hands that fold in prayer, the spine that lengthens, the heart that opens. Let us remember that meditation is not punishment or escape but an intimate dialogue with life. And in that dialogue, joy is the language that bridges effort and grace. When we move with this energy, light, tender, awake, our daily practice ceases to be an obligation. It becomes the very art of being alive. When we speak of returning to the body, we are not merely describing a physical relocation of awareness. We are stepping back across an invisible threshold, out of the endless traffic of thoughts and into the quiet terrain that has held us since birth. The body is not a cage, not a weight that drags the spirit down. It is the doorway through which life announces itself in every second. To return to it is to honor the very ground of our existence. Most of our waking hours are spent chasing something just beyond reach, plans, worries, expectations, the glow of a screen, until the body becomes an afterthought, a silent companion we rarely acknowledge unless it demands our attention through discomfort or fatigue. Yet if we pause, truly pause, we find that the body is whispering constantly. It speaks in the language of warmth and chill, of heartbeat and breath, of subtle tensions and releases. These signals are invitations, not interruptions. They are asking us to come home. To enter this homecoming, we begin by slowing down. Perhaps you feel your feet on the floor right now, or the weight of your spine against the chair. or the subtle dance of your breath against the ribs. In those simple sensations lives a quiet, unassuming truth. You are alive. You are breathing. Before any thought has arisen, before the mind names a single thing, the body is already here, pulsing with presence. To sense this is to glimpse the foundation of meditation. When I say return, I mean a shift as delicate as turning your head toward a familiar voice. Imagine a bird that has flown far in search of food, circling, restless, only to discover that the seed it sought has been waiting at the doorstep all along. Returning to the body is like that, not a conquest, but a remembering. No effort is required beyond noticing. You might begin by letting your attention trace the rhythm of your breath. The inhale arrives, unbidden, carrying the world inside. The exhale departs, surrendering back. With each cycle, there is a subtle rocking, a lullaby written in the language of air. Feel the way your chest expands like morning light spilling through a window, the way your belly softens as you let go. This is not performance, it is recognition. The body is breathing you. The body is already meditating, even when the mind is racing. As attention settles, layers of sensation start to reveal themselves. The hum of blood through veins, the tingling at the fingertips, the micro-movements of muscle adjusting to comfort. They were always there, hidden under the static of hurry. By noticing, we enter intimacy with ourselves. The mind, accustomed to solving problems, may try to analyze or control this experience. But here, analysis is unnecessary. It is enough to feel. In returning to the body, we also return to honesty. The body cannot lie. It registers joy, tension, fear, longing. It carries the stories we've ignored. When you close your eyes and truly inhabit the space behind your sternum, perhaps you feel a constriction that has been there for days, weeks, years. Meeting that constriction with curiosity rather than judgment is the first act of compassion. I see you, we say, and I will stay. In that staying, healing begins, not by erasing the sensation, but by letting it be known. Joy often begins as a quiet glow within this recognition. It does not shout or demand applause. It arises the way sunlight warms a stone, gradually, thoroughly, until warmth becomes indistinguishable from the stone itself. The moment you notice the steadiness of your pulse, the softness of the breath, you might sense a gratitude too subtle to name. This gratitude is the embryo of joy. It needs nothing added, nothing fixed. It only asks to be felt. Many of us have been trained to treat the body as an obstacle to spiritual growth, something to transcend or discipline. But transformation does not come from escaping the body. It emerges from befriending it. To befriend the body is to respect its limits, to listen when it is weary, to honor its cycles of rest and renewal. This friendship is not sentimental, it is pragmatic. A body at ease becomes a vessel for clarity. A body ignored becomes a prison of agitation. In practical terms, returning might look like pausing before you rush into the day, placing a hand over your heart, noticing the warmth beneath your palm. It might be feeling the soles of your feet press into the earth before you take a single step. It might be tasting the air at the back of your throat as you breathe. These micro moments are not distractions, they are doorways. Each doorway opens into the vast simplicity of now. Over time, this practice shifts the inner landscape. Instead of floating above experience, you sink into it. Instead of performing calmness, you discover calmness living quietly beneath the noise. The body teaches patience. The heart beats at its own pace. The lungs fill and empty on their schedule. Digestion unfolds without consultation. To align with these rhythms is to align with life itself. This return is also an act of reclaiming. In a world that profits from our disconnection, where speed is prized, where attention is commodified, choosing to inhabit your body fully is a quiet rebellion. You are refusing to be pulled entirely into abstraction. You are insisting on presence. Presence cannot be sold or stolen, it can only be lived. And in living it, you plant the seeds of liberation. Imagine standing beneath an open sky, wind brushing your cheeks, sun warming the back of your neck. Your mind may wander, but the body anchors you. Here, gravity is an ally, breath a companion, heartbeat a metronome. To surrender to this grounding is not to shrink into flesh. It is to recognize that the sacred wears skin. Meditation begins not in transcending the human but in embracing it. And as you keep returning, moment after moment, breath after breath, the dialogue between you and your body grows more fluent. Silence becomes eloquent. Stillness becomes alive. There is a subtle smile, not painted on the lips but dwelling somewhere deeper. A smile that says, yes, I belong here. Yes, this is home. When the mind first begins to settle into the body, there is one constant that has been with us from the very first instant of life: breath. It arrives before words, before choices, before any plan to practice. The breath is our oldest companion, a faithful rhythm that has never abandoned us, even in our most distracted moments. To notice it fully is to meet the pulse of life itself moving through us, unearned, undeserved, yet always here. The miracle is its simplicity. No ceremony announces an inhale, no trumpet sounds the exhale. Breath happens without our command, as intimate and effortless as the turning of the earth beneath our feet. Yet for all its constancy, we so rarely pause to feel its texture, its weightless gift. Each time we do, we are invited into a living meditation already unfolding, independent of our striving. Close your eyes for a heartbeat and sense that first sip of air entering the nostrils. There is a subtle coolness, a whisper of life gliding toward the lungs. The chest expands, the ribs widen, the diaphragm dips to welcome what is freely offered. Then, as naturally as the tide recedes, the exhale releases, warm and familiar, returning to the world what was momentarily yours. This entire cycle completes itself again and again, whether we attend to it or ignore it. And every cycle holds an opportunity to awaken. Breath is a teacher without agenda. It is both anchor and invitation. When the mind leaps into yesterday's regret or tomorrow's demand, the breath remains here, moving at the tempo of now. If we are willing to rest our attention on this subtle tide, even for a few seconds, the feverish swirl of thought begins to soften. Worries dissolve like mist against a mountain slope. The body, sensing the quiet recognition, releases its grip on hidden tensions. Shoulders lower, the jaw loosens, the heartbeat finds steadiness. There is also an ancient rhythm encoded in breathing, older than language, older than any lineage of meditation. Inhaling we receive, exhaling we give. Each cycle is an enactment of life's reciprocity. Trees exhale the oxygen we breathe in, we exhale the carbon dioxide they breathe in. Without thinking, we participate in a dialogue older than the species itself. To feel this exchange is to touch a larger belonging, a subtle intimacy with everything that breathes. Joy begins to stir naturally here, not because we have forced a pleasant emotion, but because we recognize our inseparability from the living field. Every inhale is proof of abundance. There is always more air. Every exhale is proof of release. What we no longer need can fall away. In noticing this ceaseless generosity, gratitude becomes unavoidable. Gratitude, when felt sincerely, ripens into a quiet joy that does not depend on external achievement. It is simply the body saying, "I am alive." Breath also mirrors our inner landscape. Rapid, shallow breaths often accompany agitation or fear. Slow, deep breaths reveal ease, trust, spaciousness. By observing, not judging, these patterns, we become intimate with our own currents. To control the breath aggressively is to impose will where receptivity is needed. Instead, we learn to partner with it, to ride its cadence as a surfer rides a wave, adjusting gently, never forcing. Consider the subtle pause at the top of an inhale, that suspended instant where fullness peaks but release has not yet begun. Or the soft lull at the bottom of an exhale, where emptiness rests before new air enters. These pauses are gateways into timelessness. The mind expects motion, the breath offers stillness between movements. To linger there, even briefly, is to glimpse the space in which thoughts dissolve, where silence reigns without effort. Breath carries memory too. Notice how a sigh escapes when you finally sit after a long day, or how laughter transforms breathing into bursts of joy. Notice how grief constricts the chest, slowing the tide, or how wonder quickens the inhale, making room for what feels vast. In honoring these shifts, we honor our humanity. We see that breath is not a sterile function. It is an expression of our story in every moment. The miracle lies not in manipulating breath into perfection but in trusting its intelligence. It has sustained you through sleep, through distraction, through storms of emotion. Every inhale has been an unwritten promise. Life continues. Every exhale, a surrender. Life can be released. When we sit quietly and witness this, something in us unclenches. We are no longer doing meditation. We are being meditated by life itself. Imagine standing near a shoreline at dawn, waves rising and falling in quiet conversation with the sand. Each swell is different, yet the sea remains. Breath is like that ocean, timeless beneath the ever-changing surface of thoughts. The more we attune to its rhythm, the more the mind learns to float rather than fight. Strain melts, listening deepens, joy seeps in like sunlight through water. To live inside this awareness is to carry sanctuary wherever you go. Waiting in traffic, walking across a crowded room, even in moments of tension, You can feel that subtle tide moving within, whispering, "You are safe in this breath. You are home here." No external condition can confiscate this refuge. It is yours, unconditionally, as long as you are alive. And so, each daily practice becomes less about escaping reality and more about dwelling in it fully, breathing with it, letting its cadence remind you of your belonging. Breath does not ask for perfection. It asks only for recognition, for the quiet turning of attention that says, "I feel you. I receive your gift." With every such turning, the space for joy expands, drop by drop, like morning light spilling across a quiet room. Joy, as we come to know it through sincere practice, is not a medal we earn after meeting some invisible standard. It is not the prize at the finish line of discipline, nor a fleeting spark produced by perfect conditions. Joy is the quiet current running beneath the surface of experience, waiting for us to notice. When we stop grasping, even for a heartbeat, we sense that it has been here all along, patient as the earth beneath our feet. Much of our culture treats joy as a commodity, something to chase, collect, display, prove. Advertisements whisper that if we buy a certain product, achieve a certain status, sculpt a certain image, happiness will finally arrive. Even in spiritual circles, the search for bliss can become another form of striving, an attempt to accumulate pleasant feelings as proof of progress. But the deeper truth is simpler, humbler. The capacity for joy is woven into our being. It requires less manufacturing and more remembering. Picture a child at play, building castles of sand with no thought of tomorrow. The delight is not contingent on applause or permanence. It arises because life is expressing itself freely through tiny hands. That freedom has not vanished in adulthood. It lies dormant beneath layers of concern, waiting for us to unclench our grip on should and must. Joy returns the moment we allow the ordinary to be enough. The body knows this instinctively. When you feel the warmth of sunlight on skin, hear the rustle of leaves, or taste cool water after thirst, notice the microsecond of quiet satisfaction before the mind names it. That satisfaction is joy in its simplest form, unadorned, immediate, complete. It does not ask, "Have I earned this?" It simply is. Meditation invites us to dwell longer in that uncontrived presence, letting it spread from a flicker to a steady glow. Recognizing joy as inherent shifts the very posture of practice. Instead of approaching meditation as a ladder toward a distant state, we meet it as an unfolding of what is already ours. Each breath becomes less a means to an end and more an expression of contentment. Even the effort to improve softens. We are not repairing a broken self, we are uncovering a self that was quietly whole beneath the noise. Consider how a lake reflects the sky when wind subsides. The reflection was not manufactured, it was obscured by ripples. Joy functions similarly. Rest the mind, and the reflection of life's simple beauty reappears on its own. There is no need to polish the water, stillness is enough. This is why practices centered on soft awareness often lead to an unforced smile, a sense of widening space inside the chest. It is the relief of realizing we need not chase what we already are. This understanding also reframes difficulty. Life will still present sorrow, loss, uncertainty. But when joy is known as our birthright rather than a prize, hardship is not a permanent exile from happiness. Pain moves through the same open field where joy resides, both are weather passing across the sky. Anchored in this recognition, we become less afraid of feeling fully, because we sense that beneath the storm, the ground of gladness remains untouched. There is a profound humility in allowing joy to be simple. It dissolves the pressure to constantly engineer meaning. We stop measuring every moment against some imagined ideal and begin savoring what is here. The faint hum of the fridge, the steady pulse in the wrist, the hush before dawn. Each is enough. Each carries the flavor of aliveness. This savoring is not naive, it is intimate. It acknowledges the fragility of life while refusing to postpone wonder. Sometimes joy emerges quietly in the midst of ordinary chores. Washing a cup, you feel the warmth of water and a spontaneous gratitude for having hands to hold it. Walking down a crowded street, you catch the play of light on windows and smile without reason. These moments are not accidents, they are glimpses of what is constant when we are not lost in the storyline of lack. Meditation does not create them, it sharpens our sensitivity to their presence. In viewing joy as inherent, comparison loses its hold. No longer do we scan another's life for signs of more or better. We realize joy cannot be hoarded or monopolized, it permeates existence equally, waiting for attention. This equality breeds compassion. Seeing joy as universal, we instinctively wish for others to remember it too, even amidst their suffering. The wish itself deepens our own sense of connection. The heart, once oriented toward relentless seeking, learns to rest. Rest is not laziness, it is the fertile ground from which genuine action arises. Decisions made from the quiet joy of enoughness tend to be kinder, less frantic. We are no longer bargaining with life, trying to squeeze fulfillment from every achievement. We are participating with curiosity, knowing the well of contentment cannot run dry. And so the invitation becomes gentle. Notice the joy already shimmering beneath the breath, within the pulse, across the senses. Let practice be less about acquiring and more about unveiling. Each time you soften, each time you let a moment simply be, the innate gladness has room to breathe. It is not fleeting because it does not depend on conditions. It is spacious because it belongs to the very fabric of awareness. The more this truth settles, the more life itself feels like a friend. We stop negotiating with experience, stop demanding it conform. Joy does not erase challenge, it coexists with it, offering resilience from the inside out. In this way, daily practice becomes less a duty and more a homecoming, a quiet return to what never left. There is a subtle moment in every sincere practice where we notice how hard we are trying. It is the furrow of the brow, the slight forward lean, the invisible contract with ourselves that whispers, if I do this correctly, enlightenment will arrive faster. That whisper is born of good intention, yet it plants a quiet tension beneath the skin. Meditation becomes another project to complete, another line on the day's list. The heart, sensing the push, retreats. Presence cannot be forced into being, it flowers when the soil is soft. Softening effort does not mean abandoning commitment. It is a reorientation, from striving toward becoming, to resting inside what is already here. Imagine a clenched fist opening, not because the fingers lost strength, but because they remembered the relief of release. The power is not in the clutch, the power is in the letting go. In this release, energy once spent on gripping becomes available for seeing, listening, feeling. To sense this, begin by noticing where trying lives in the body. Perhaps it sits as a subtle tightening in the throat, a bracing in the belly, a restless scanning in the eyes. Instead of condemning these patterns, meet them as you would meet a friend who has been overworking. Offer patience. Say silently, it's all right to rest. The moment such permission is granted, breath moves more freely, shoulders lower, and attention begins to widen beyond the narrow corridor of control. Presence is by nature receptive. It does not chase or demand, it notices. Think of a meadow at dusk. Grasses bending in a breeze, light shifting across hills, everything arriving and departing in silence. The meadow makes no effort to capture beauty, it simply receives. To embody this receptivity is to discover that meditation's deepest movements are often the most effortless. Awareness expands not through strain but through trust. Effort in the early stages of practice is like striking a match, useful to ignite the flame. But once the fire is steady, striking again and again only scatters sparks. Many practitioners unknowingly keep striking, believing that more intensity equals more insight. In truth, the more we press, the more rigid the mind becomes, shrinking the field of experience to a narrow hunt for results. By softening, we give the flame space to breathe, and it illuminates without our interference. This softening is an act of humility. We admit that life is moving through us far more gracefully than our grasping ever could. The breath was breathing before we named it. The heart was beating before we tried to regulate it. Awareness itself is not manufactured, it is noticed. To relinquish excessive effort is to acknowledge that the river knows its course better than we know our paddling. Notice how even small releases shift the texture of a sitting. Perhaps you relax the muscles around the eyes, allow the tongue to rest against the palate, let the spine find its natural curve instead of soldiering into rigidity. Each yielding invites the nervous system into a quieter rhythm. Thoughts still appear, yet they pass as clouds pass across an unclenched sky. Presence feels less like an achievement and more like a returning tide. Softening also dismantles the subtle hierarchy we often impose, judging one moment of stillness as better, one distraction as failure. When we stop grading experience, curiosity blooms. We ask what is actually here, rather than am I doing it right? This question opens doorways, the whisper of air against skin, the hum of a distant bird, the texture of heartbeat in the ribs. Life is no longer evaluated, it is inhabited. Effortless presence is not sloth. It is alert intimacy. It holds the paradox of discipline and ease, like a musician who has practiced scales so deeply that playing becomes improvisation. The hands still move, the attention remains steady, yet there is no forcing. The song emerges because the player trusts the instrument. In meditation, we trust awareness itself, knowing that what needs to arise will arise without our pushing. There is profound nourishment in this trust. Anxiety born of getting somewhere begins to dissolve. We realize there is no scoreboard, no finish line waiting to validate our worth. Practice ceases to be an audition and becomes a relationship, tender and evolving. Each breath is enough, each sensation a teacher, each pause an opportunity to feel the pulse of life unmediated. Imagine standing beneath a vast night sky, stars scattered like seeds. You could strain to name every constellation, tally each light, demand that the heavens reveal themselves more clearly. Or you could simply stand, eyes wide, breathing, allowing the immensity to touch you. The second posture carries the flavor of presence. It is the posture of the heart at ease, open, unhurried, willing to be astonished. As the habit of forcing dissolves, joy, the subtle hum discovered in earlier keys, gains room to expand. There is less noise between you and the moment, fewer negotiations about how things should feel. Experience unfolds of its own accord, and you begin to trust that unfolding, even when it carries sorrow or uncertainty. This trust is not passive. It is alive, ready to respond, yet free from the burden of constant correction. The journey from effort to presence is ongoing. Each day offers new chances to notice where the grip tightens, to breathe, to soften, to return. It is not about never trying. It is about discerning when trying hardens into striving, when striving eclipses wonder. By catching that moment gently, you invite spaciousness back into the room. Spaciousness, once welcomed, becomes the quiet host of transformation. And so we arrive not at a finish line, but at a widening horizon. Joy has revealed itself as less a fleeting spark and more a quiet radiance woven through breath, body, and awareness. Each return to sensation, each softening of effort, each moment of trust becomes another thread in the tapestry of daily life. Transformation is not sudden thunder but the patient turning of seasons, the subtle reweaving of the nervous system into calm. The practice does not ask for perfection, it asks for presence. With every inhale you welcome what is. With every exhale you release what no longer needs to be carried. Day by day, this gentle rhythm invites you to stand where you are and feel the living pulse of the world moving through you. The body, once treated as an afterthought, becomes a sanctuary. Joy, once imagined as distant, is discovered as your own heartbeat echoing quietly in the stillness. Carry this remembrance into the ordinary, into washing a dish, greeting a neighbor, pausing to notice a bird crossing the morning sky. Let the joy that rises on the cushion spill into your steps, your gestures, your words. In doing so, meditation ceases to be a separate ritual and becomes the shape of your living. The world does not need you to be flawless. It longs for you to be awake. Return often. Breathe fully. Soften the edges. Trust that each moment, touched with even a little warmth, is already the path. And as you walk it, may the simple grace of joy meet you again and again, like sunlight returning at dawn,